Hey, Sandra, are you there? I was just wondering if you were done at the doctor's office yet. How did it go, by the way? Did you hear any news from her? Anything important?
Well, I was able to confirm basically what we already know, which is that I'm pregnant. The doctor said that I was already about 3 months into the pregnancy.
Oh, I see. Well, that's good to know for sure, though. I'm glad that you were able to find that out. What about the sex of the baby? Do you know if it's going to be a boy or a girl?
I asked, but the doctor said that they didn't quite know yet. Although they said they should be able to confirm that for me within a month or two.
So then we still have quite a ways to go before we even find out if I'm going to be having a grandson or a granddaughter. Is that right?
Yes, but don't worry. You're on the same schedule as everyone else to find out. We just have to wait for more information.
You know, you seem pretty relaxed for someone who just found out that they were indeed pregnant. In fact, I would be pretty nervous about whether or not you're going to have a boy. Because if you have a third daughter, well, I would just be so embarrassed personally. I know you must be wanting a son too, right?
Yeah, I'm not really sure if that's on the top of my priority list for this child, really. I mean, I don't really care what my child turns out to be. I just want them to be happy and healthy.
But I know that you grew up in a household with a bunch of brothers, isn't that right? So I'm just saying that it would be weird if you didn't have a son given your family.
Lisa, you know that Josh and I have talked about this with you before, but neither of us really care about what our child ends up being. They can be a boy, a girl, intersex. It doesn't really matter to us one bit. Just as long as we can be good, supportive parents and give them a good life. That's all that matters.
I get that, but are you really saying that you won't care at all if you just have a third daughter and not a son this time? I mean, just how long do you think you're going to be able to have kids for? We have to get this show on the road, you know?
Again, I think that maybe we just have different priorities when it comes to this. Are you saying that you'd really be let down if I did end up having a third daughter?
Well, of course I would. You know how much I want to have a grandson, don't you? I mean, who else would carry on the family name? If you don't have a son, then that means that your daughters are going to have to take other family names, and that then will be the end of our lines.
I really don't think that that's how that's going to work at all. I mean, first of all, no matter what, we're all going to be family, and your family's history will just be tied into the others like it would be anyways. But also, there are plenty of women choosing not to change their name or taking hyphenated last names.
That isn't what I'm talking about at all, and you know it. Honestly, why do I even bother trying to get through to you these days? All I'm saying is, back in my day, a wife wasn't considered a real wife to her husband unless she could give him a son. Nobody wants to have a woman in their family who can't produce male offspring.
Male offspring? I think you might be watching too much Game of Thrones or something, Lisa. And even if that's how things were done while you were coming into adulthood, times have changed.
I'm just saying that you're wasting time with every child you produce that isn't a son. If this one isn't a boy, are you going to have any more children?
No, I don't think we're going to have any more children after this one. I think that 3 kids is plenty.
So then you really don't care at all what happens to the family after you have your third child? Because if I were you, I would be thinking long and hard about the legacy you're leaving behind. You still have time to change your mind. You don't have to be like this, you know.
Again, I just really don't care about those things in the same way that you do.
I really can't believe what you're saying to me. This is just ridiculous. I'll warn you right now that if you have another daughter, I am going to make my son leave you.
Lisa, come on. Please be reasonable. Besides, I'm sorry to say, but I don't think anything you could do could make Josh leave me.
You mean you really think that my son is going to want to stay with a useless wife who can't even give him a son of his own? You really are a useless woman, a useless wife, and a useless mother. Do you know that? And I won't be afraid to deal with you the way that I know how.
So then you mean you'll finally move out of our house for good if I have another daughter?
What in the world are you talking about? I wouldn't be the one moving out of the house. You would. Why should I have to move away when I'm so close to my own son?
Well, it just doesn't make any sense for me to move out either. Besides, if I did move out, then I would be taking my daughters with me.
Oh no, you don't have to worry about that. You could go ahead and leave your children with Josh. After all, they still carry his superior genes. But I just want to tell you now that if you find out that the child you're carrying is a girl, well, we just don't need any more of those around. Besides, how are you going to handle being a single mother of 3 daughters after you do get kicked out if you do take the children?
So you're really being serious? You're saying you would really try and kick me out of the house for having a girl?
Of course I'm being serious. Why would I ever joke about something like this? You better hope that child you have inside you is a boy. Because like I said, I'm not afraid to get rid of you the moment that I find out it's not a boy but a girl. Sandra, are you there? I'm just wondering what's taking you so long to get back home from work today.
I'm sorry about that, Lisa. I was on my way home when I remembered some things that I needed to buy and stopped into the grocery store.
Oh, I see. I thought that you were going to the doctor's office again today. Is that right? Have they finally told you what the baby is going to be? Please tell me that they told you you were having a boy.
I still don't know the answer to that, in fact.
Wait, what? What do you mean you don't know the answer to that yet? You mean they still haven't told you?
That's right. They still haven't told me, and I'm waiting to hear back.
You know, I don't think that I believe you. I think they told you that it was a girl and you just don't know what to tell me.
No, the doctor said that it was still too early to tell definitively.
Oh, come on. You're telling me that you're not 4 months pregnant and you still don't know if you're having a boy or a girl? If they haven't been able to see the very obvious signs that it's a boy, then I'm afraid that you do have a girl. And the doctors really haven't said anything to you at all. Because if that's the case, then I think it's just another sign that you're probably having a girl and not a boy.
No, they said that it was still too early to tell and that this is a perfectly common occurrence not to know at this point in the pregnancy.
Who is this doctor? Where did you find him? Do you even know if he's legit or not? I think a good doctor would know by now.
Lisa, do I have to remind you again that Josh and I have already talked to you about this? Because I think we've made it pretty clear that we really don't care what our baby is, so please stop asking.
I don't care if you two don't care because I do care. I care about the future of this family. Don't you get that? And just who do you think you are to talk back to your mother-in-law like this, huh?
I'm not trying to talk back to you at all, but you're saying things that we've already discussed.
You just don't want to hear what I have to say since you know that I'm right. But you should know that I was never accepted by my husband's family until I had Josh. And that's why I know how to get rid of women like you who can't give their husband the sons they deserve. That's the only way that a woman can show her worth to her husband's family.
Well, I think that's a very sad way to see things personally, but I'm sorry that you had to go through that.
I'm not sad at all. It made me the good mother that I am today, and it's wisdom that I'm trying to pass down to you. You need to understand how important it is that you have a son for this family, okay? Otherwise, we are going to have a serious problem. I mean, do you want to be worthless in the eyes of this family? Is that what you want to happen? Because that is what's going to happen.
I get that back in the day, sons were prized more than daughters, but times have changed, okay? I mean, I don't try and tell you about how wrong I think the way you were raised is.
And that's because there's nothing wrong about the way that my generation was raised. Thank you very much. And that's why I know that it's always best to have sons and not daughters.
But, Lisa, you're someone's daughter. I'm sorry, but I just can't accept what you're trying to tell me. I mean, Josh is just a regular businessman. What besides his name does he really even have to pass on? Why does it even matter at this point anyways? You
just really don't understand anything at all, do you? But I suppose it would be pointless to try and talk to you about all of this anyways. But just know that if the child you have inside of you does turn out to be a girl, then she's basically worthless to anyone.
Okay, well, we don't even know what the sex of the baby that I'm going to be having is, so there's no need to talk like this.
You really want to bring someone into the world whose only purpose in life is to give some other family's sons to carry on their family name? Anyways, I've known plenty of pregnant women in my time, and you should know the sex of the baby right now.
Well, the doctors are telling me that they don't, and I think they would know a little better than you.
Oh yes, I'm sure whatever quack doctor you went to go and see knows far more about having children than me. But honestly, I can't believe how fine you are with letting down your husband's family like this. But I suppose if you're going to be like this, I can wait another month to hear the news of what I already know. And in the meantime, I'll have to go out and find a new wife for my son. Sandra, I have some news that I'd like to share with you. You are done at the doctor's office for the day, aren't you? First, I want you to tell me what the doctors had to say about the sex of the baby. Surely they know what it's going to be by now, right?
Actually, the doctors still said that they weren't able to determine anything, but they think it's likely that I'm having a girl.
Aha! I knew it! I knew that you were going to be having a girl! What did I tell you, huh?
Well, I just said the doctors said they still weren't quite certain. And they said there have been times where they've gotten it wrong in the past, even when they were so sure. So I suppose we just really won't be able to know the answer until I actually just have the baby.
You really are just full of excuses, aren't you? But if that's the way that you're going to be, don't even bother coming home, okay? We don't need a woman like you in our lives anymore. I've already packed up all of your things and sent them ahead to your parents' house. So you can just go straight to their place instead. I am going to find a nice young wife for my Josh to marry, and we won't ever think of you again.
Lisa, have you really still not figured out what's going on here yet?
What are you talking about? What's going on? You don't know what you're talking about.
The truth is that I've been thinking about moving out for some time now. In fact, I already packed up what I needed and sent it ahead.
Oh, I see. Well, at least you're smart enough to save me some of the effort. But tell me, is it because you finally realized that you offer nothing of value to this family if you won't have a son? I'm just glad that I was finally able to get through to you and that you've finally seen the light.
Actually, it's not just me who's going to be leaving. Josh and the girls are going to be leaving with me.
What in the world are you talking about, you silly woman? Do you really think that I would ever let them do that?
And just how do you think that you would stop them? I mean, Josh already packed up and sent his things away as well.
Wait, what? What are you talking about? What's going on here? I want answers!
I think the answers are all pretty obvious, really. Josh and I were never ever going to get a divorce.
But, I mean, are you telling me that my son is just going to abandon me all by myself?
More or less, yes. That's exactly what I'm trying to tell you is going to happen.
That can't be right. This has to be some kind of lie. Do you think that I'm going to fall for that? I raised my son since he was born. You really think that you could just scare him away like that? Besides, my husband already passed away, so if he left me then, I would be all by myself. Are you really telling me you're all going to leave a poor old woman to fend for herself?
Lisa, you are the one who wanted to kick me out of my own home, all because I wasn't going to have a son. If you don't like the way that my family is, then you don't have to live with us. It really is just that simple.
But my son would never leave me. There's no way that he'd do something like this unless you tricked him. He's too sweet.
He is sweet and he doesn't want to have to do this, but he loves me and he doesn't want to see me get hurt.
Well, I know this won't stick. I know that my son can't live without me. He'll be back. You'll all be back, you'll see. He'll never cast me aside like this.
I'm sorry to say, but Josh and I have already talked about this, and he said that he's going to stay with me, even if it means never seeing you again.
I know that you must have told him something wrong to turn him against me. My son would never ever treat me like this. I was patient with you at first, but I knew right from the very start that you were going to be nothing but trouble. You really are just a little brat. Do you know this? I mean, really, you can't even do the bare minimum of what a wife should be able to. That's why I was never ever going to accept you as my daughter-in-law.
And I think you would have figured out by now that I really don't care what you think of me as. I've been plenty patient with you two, and now I am seriously at my limits with your nonsense.
See? There you go again, talking back to your mother-in-law. Just who do you think you are to do something like that, huh? We've all lived together for 10 years. Do you know that? Do you know just how many second chances I've given you? How merciful I've been to you? I won't let you take my son away from me. I'd rather you and all your crappy daughters just leave and never ever return again. Sandra, are you there? Please, you have to help me. I can't get a hold of Josh no matter what. Can you please tell him that I've been trying to get in contact with him for a while?
Actually, Josh is right here with me, and he's doing just fine not talking to you.
Well, can you please tell me where it is that you've all moved to? I've checked in every place that I can think of.
Yeah, that isn't going to happen. We're not going to tell you where we've moved to.
All I want to do is speak to my son. That's the only reason why I want to know. I just want to talk to him face to face after all this time. Is that really so bad?
I think that you really need to give this a rest. Why can't you accept that your son needs some space from you right now? In fact, he doesn't want to talk to you at all, and this isn't going to do anything to help him change his mind. In fact, you should consider yourself lucky if he ever even decides to give you a call.
I want to talk to my son face to face so that you can't butt in and put any more fake ideas into his head.
Actually, Josh doesn't want to talk to you, and he came to that decision on his own. He just doesn't even know what he could even say to you. I have nothing to do with this at all. He told me this is what he wanted to do after I told you what I had been dealing with.
No, this can't be right. My son would never just want to abandon me like this. He'd never want to try and cut me out of his life. I mean, don't you both realize that without him in my life, I'll be all alone? I won't have anyone to take care of me at all if you do this.
Yes, I'm afraid that you're right about that. That is what's going to happen.
And you would really steal my only son? The only living family that I have left away from me? How could you be so cruel to a poor old woman like me? Even though he was so kind enough to let you live with him, and after the two of you got married. Now that you've just decided that you want him all for yourself.
Let me make something clear, Lisa. I was the one who allowed you to move in with Josh and I. In fact, Josh was against you living with us from the very start. He knew that you'd be overbearing and was wanting some independence. But I told him that I wanted to show you that I could be a good daughter-in-law and pushed for you to stay with us. In fact, it became a bit of a fight early on with Josh and I. I practically ended up forcing him to call you and ask if you'd like to live with us.
But no, this can't be right. It's gotta be some kind of trick or something. I mean, my son loves me more than anything in the whole world.
I know that you think that you and your son are so close and inseparable, but I'm afraid to tell you that the only one who thinks that is you. I'm not giving you my opinion. I'm only telling you what I've learned watching you and your son interact and listening to Josh talk about you. I'm not going to pretend like you and I have even had enough of a chance to get to know each other well, but your son has told me all about you and all about him.
Please, Sandra. Josh is the only thing that I have left in my sad life. You have to talk to him. You have to convince him to change his mind about all of this. Can't you do that for me?
I'm not going to do anything of the sort. Josh is going through a lot himself right now, and I'm going to give him the time he needs to process this on his own. So please stop trying to call us or text us to ask where we live. If we see you snooping around here, we're going to call the police. Do you understand?
The police? You mean you would call the police on a poor old woman like me? How could you do that?
I've been clear with you why we're doing this. If you really can't figure it out by now, then I think that you also need to take some time to think about your actions. So here's what's going to happen. You are going to find a new place to live and take care of yourself until Josh decides that he's ready to talk to you and have you in his life again. But until then, we don't want anything to do with you ever again. This is going to happen on its own time or not at all. I tried to be clear with Lisa about what would happen if she kept pestering us, but she just didn't seem interested in listening at all. In the end, we had to block her number on everything and do our best to hide any information leaking out to her. It took a few years, but by then Josh was finally ready to talk to his mother again. At that point, Lisa had been living in a tiny apartment that she was barely able to afford through her retirement checks and wages from her new part-time job. I think the experience must have humbled Lisa quite a bit and hopefully taught her the true meaning of family and having people there who care for you. She was so apologetic about all the things that she said to me, and I actually believed what she had to tell me. While we didn't reinvite her into our lives with our arms spread wide open, Josh and I agreed to give her a second chance, and we've been making an effort to have her visit us, or the other way around, at least once a month. She must have gotten over her obsession with having sons as well, because she is nothing but incredibly kind and sweet to all three of her granddaughters. Of course, it pains me that my relationship with my mother-in-law went in the direction that it did, but I think that Lisa finally came to understand that our family is the way it is, and she could either take it or leave it. Or perhaps more accurately, we would leave